The IS could be getting a third refresh before it gets a redesign. Why, Lexus? Why? As well, on the Toyota news front, the RAV4 hybrids are finally being made here in America. And Toyota is making Supra parts again. I'll catch you guys on the other side, and let's get into it. Don't forget to subscribe to the Luxurious Fleet and hit that bell icon so you won't miss any breaking news or reviews in the future. Over at Motor One, the Yaris could be a crossover, and it should be debuting this year. So the new Yaris, which we were seeing in Europe and Asia and not here in America, it turns out Toyota has additional plans, and that might include a crossover. Quoting Executive Vice President in Europe, Matt Harrison, he said SUV segments in general are all continuing to grow. And Auto Express is claiming that the Yaris-based crossover is in the works for a launch later this year. I mean, I know the current Yaris, the brand new one that just came out, doesn't have all-wheel drive. So maybe this crossover like Yaris would be able to be equipped with all-wheel drive. Anything is kind of possible with this new TNGA architecture. So very interesting. Not really excited for it because we don't even get the standard Yaris here in the States. Over the Toyota newsroom, Kentucky begins production of hot-selling RAV4 Hybrid. If you guys saw my end of the year sales for 2019 video, you can check it out in the bubble at the top of the screen. I talked a lot about hybrids, and of course a RAV4 being the #1 selling hybrid now for Toyota here in America. So that is very impressive, but they had more demand than supply. And if they had the supply, then they would have been able to sell over 100,000 RAV4 hybrids. Now that they're being able to make these here in the great US of A, expect them to sell over 100,000 RAV4 hybrids next year. And this should also allow the Japanese plant to have a little bit more capacity for those RAV4 primes, because we know those are going to be made overseas in Japan. Over at the global Toyota newsroom, Toyota reproduces and sells spare parts for the A70 and A80 Supra. Now, it's not a lot of parts. From all I could tell, it would be these parts right here for the A70, propeller shaft, door handles, etc. A80 model, headlamps, door handles, brake sensor. Now, it says etc. So I don't know exactly where I can find the entire catalog. To be honest, it doesn't get me that excited, but it is kind of cool that people will be able to find parts more readily than the aftermarket. So essentially brand new parts for older classic vehicles. I think that's a really cool thing that Toyota's doing. Over at the Lexus newsroom, Lexus and NX set to get special edition bronze edition, which is the same thing we get here over in the States. And the UX is getting a special blue edition, which I've been waiting for a long time because the blue paint color on it is stunning. We'll just look through some pictures because I mean, they're not really that special. They're just kind of unique colors and trim combinations. So this color here, it is called Celestial Blue. It reminds me a lot of Structural Blue that we see on the LC500. And we will see that Structural Blue on the LC500 convertible for the first 100 units, kind of as a limited run special allotment. So cool to see that this type of blue, it's not Structural Blue, but it's close enough in my book. Just really, really sharp. And I know other markets get it. I've seen this blue in the European market. For some reason, we don't get it here in America, but I just love it. I hope this eventually comes to America. We really, really love to see this blue on the fun, little, exciting Lexus UX. Now, what's also strange that it's only the UX 200. It's not the UX 250H. So what is my guess here? Well, my guess is that demand for the 250H is out of control. So they don't need to be making special editions of that car yet. The UX 200, at least here in America, is very, very, we have a couple units on our lot that one of them's been there for a year, over a year, and it's just hard for us to move that car. You know, the UX 200 is a front wheel drive only. They get okay gas mileage, but they're kind of a dog compared to the all-wheel drive hybrid variant. And so my guess is that maybe they have a few of these, you know, maybe extra assembly line room and space and scheduling for some 200s, and maybe that's why they threw this special edition to move some of those UX 200s that they have. Okay, this is what a lot of you guys have been waiting for. Is Lexus planning a third refresh for the IS sedan? Lexus Enthusiast bringing this article to us. This is a translation from a Japanese article, and I went over to that Japanese article and really didn't see anything in addition to what Lexus Enthusiast is quoting from them, so we're going to stay here on the English website. Two Japanese sources are claiming that the Lexus IS sedan might be getting a refresh this year rather than a next generation model. The first indication comes from Kuru Mag. 7 years have passed since the 30 series Lexus IS appeared in May 13, so it is time for a full model change, but it will be partially improved in the fall of 2020. You can translate partially improved as a refresh, not a redesign. It is said that the reason why the full model change was canceled was that the IS front FR, which means front engine rear wheel drive model, would be abolished in the future due to the review of the model sold by Lexus. Again, translation is not the greatest thing. We would almost need a real translator here, but I'll do my best. So what does this mean? It would be abolished in the future, meaning the IS, it could get the axe due to a review in the entire model lineup by Lexus. So we're pretty sure that the GS is going to be extinct. And then this is the first time we've got any sort of news that the IS could possibly be coming extinct. Now, what can we see in this refresh? If it does get refreshed, changes to exterior and interior design. So slight headlight, bumper changes, expect different wheels. Not necessarily wheel sizes if it is a refresh, but definitely wheel designs. Interior design. I'll talk on this briefly. What I heard about the next IS interior, or I should say infotainment system, is that it's being designed by Toyota. It's not being designed by the Lexus teams. So that is a big head scratcher why they would implement that technology in an older vehicle if it is going to be around for a refresh. Maybe that is 3 or 4 years down the road that Toyota engineers are working on that software integration to replace the remote touchpad that a lot of people don't like. Besides the technology in there, like Apple CarPlay, updated screens, that sort of thing, expect different seats possibly if they are going to do a bigger refresh. But I still think that's asking too much. I would expect them to do something mild like the 2020 RX, like put USBs in the back seat, maybe make it a touchscreen if they bring that screen a little bit closer. Definitely include Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. That's about all the design I could imagine them making in a refresh without a redesign of the whole vehicle. And before we go over my theories or possible outcomes for the future IS, I wanted to go over the sales numbers from when it started, but mainly in the last few years here. So we're just going to look at this newest generation of IS, this third generation, starting in 2014. Sales are always pretty high in the first year of sales for a new redesign. So 51,000, and it's just been a complete downslide from there. 46,000 the year after, 37, 26, 22. And this last year, the IS slipped all the way down to under 15,000. So going back to the sales here over at Wikipedia, it dropped from 26 to 22 to just under 15,000 in 2019. That is horrible. Under 15,000 units, that is unreal how horrible the sedan market is and how uncompetitive the Lexus performance sedans have been. Now it's time to get in front of the camera. We're going to talk about my theories of how the IS could stay around or could be canceled in the future. Okay, so most likely the IS is going to get a redesign this coming year. Actually, this year. It's 2020 now. Happy New Year. IS is most likely to get a redesign. Why? Well, that's what I've heard from a very reliable source. He had some details too. It's not just like he was like, oh yeah, it's getting a redesign. No, he said redesign around October with 19-inch wheels. Now, the current IS cannot accept 19-inch wheels, at least not from the factory. Like on the 18-inch wheels, the tires are already this thin. There's no way they would put 19s on a refreshed model. And he did say that there would be a V6, but only in the F Sport models, which Lexus has never really done that before. It would be a horsepower upgrade for the F Sport model. They've never done that. They've only done that for full-blown F models. So that's what I feel is most likely to happen. Sticky note, that was their plan. Let's say their plan was to redesign it, but after looking at the free-falling sales numbers of the IS and the current market of the entire sedan industry, I mean, look at Ford, they're not selling sedans anymore. You look at a lot of luxury competitors and their sedans aren't doing well either. Maybe Lexus was just like, shoot, it would be foolish for us to redesign this. Let's just refresh it, put some prettier lipstick on it, change the headlights, change the grille a little bit, give it Apple CarPlay, give it Android Auto, and we'll just kind of let it slowly die. Like they did with the GS, except the GS has had even less attention. But that would be number 2. So to recap, most likely is a redesign. Second most likely is a refresh, then a cancel. Next step would be a refresh, then a redesign. Now, maybe they would refresh it to just like step back and say, hey, what if the sedan market takes off again? Or if there's a huge demand for the IS, what if we then redesign it after this third refresh for this already old vehicle? Not very likely, but it could happen. And then lastly, they could just cancel it after this next year. What if they're like, you know, this is just a terrible time to redesign a car. The market's so small from it, we're never gonna make our money back if we redesign a brand new little sports sedan that no one is buying right now. At least not for America. They might be in other parts of the world, but at the very beginning, we talked about the Yaris even getting a crossover. So the entire industry is going over to SUVs or CUVs, crossovers, whatever you want to call them. And lastly, why would they cancel the IS and the GS? Well, we don't have confirmation of them doing either, but the GS is pretty much done unless a miracle happens. And it's looking like the IS, after some news like this, could be going that way too. So that just leaves the LS and the ES. How could the ES ever be a sports car or a sports sedan like the GS? Well, it could be possible. And why? Well, with the TNGA platforms, there's a lot more flexibility. Lexus is testing high-performance hybrids in the ES currently with a really powerful rear motor to power the rear wheels. So that is coming for the ES in a few years, and that would smoke the current GS and the current IS in their current state. And we saw what Toyota did to the ES's cousins, the Camry, as well as the Avalon, the TRD versions of those. So they could give the same treatment or a similar treatment to higher performance versions of the IS. Give it better suspension, stiffer steering, things like that. That is possible. That would really reduce their costs. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense that they keep their best-selling sedan and they just give it full-blown different performance options for that vehicle. It is a possibility, and it would be cost-saving instead of having 4 sedans, 2 of them being dead, actually 3 of them being dead because the LS is dying too. But they're never going to get rid of the LS. That is way too dear to their hearts to get rid of the LS. So our potential future for Lexus sedans could be the LS and the ES, and multiple variants of those LSF, LS, LS Hybrid, LS Electric, and then obviously similar things with the ES. So, but that's about it. What do you guys think? Do you think they're going to redesign it this coming year? Like, that's what I think they'll probably do? Or do you think they're gonna play it safe, refresh it, see what the market happens, possibly cancel it, possibly redesign it after a few years? I really don't know at this point. Yes, I still think the redesign is most likely. You know, maybe after the free fall in sales, they've just been you know, scratching their heads for what do we do next. I'll see you guys in the comments below. This is a lot of information, a lot of theory crafting, and I'll catch you guys the next time. Patreon supporters, you guys continue to rock. Thanks so much. If you guys really enjoy my content and you want to help out a little bit more, head over to my Patreon page, link in the description. I'll catch you guys in the next time. Peace out.